Alright guys, so today we're going to be working on a 17 BMW X5. It's an X-Drive 35i, so it's a twin turbo V6. It barely has any mileage on it, but the car was sitting for a little while, so the rotors got rusted out and it kind of ate through the pads. So you can see on that edge, if you can pick that up right there, that is basically in all the rotors and pads. And the brake sensor is picking up on the rear, so that means that it kind of ate through one of the pads at one point. So we are going to be putting all new rotors, pads and sensor all the way around. That way everything stays in the same cycle and we're not having to go back and forward. You know, that one was done a year ago or a couple of months ago, and then now we got to do the front, so it's all going to be done at the same time. So yeah, let me get to it, and then I'll keep you posted, guys, how it is that the process is done. It's pretty straightforward, but like always, I try to teach you guys a little bit how to get it done safe and safely. So yeah, let me jack it up. I'm gonna start on this side. I'm gonna jack it up and I'm gonna start working on the front and then work my way to the back. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, so you jack up the car, you take the wheel, which is a 17, and then you got the pin, the Allen keys, and they have this little cap on them so that dust and dirt doesn't get on them. So you just pull those out, two of them, one on top and the other one on bottom. Then that's going to take a number 7. Let me see, it's a T7 right here, to be able to break them loose. So like always, I break them loose a little bit and then I start working on the pad so we can compress our piston. So like always, I get my little crowbar here, stick it inside the rotor, and I start pulling like that so we can start working on the piston. And then I kind of stick it in between the pad, I don't know if you can pick that up, in between the pad and the caliper and the rotor, so I can push straight into that piston so we can move it back in. That way it's easier when we gotta put our new pads in and whatnot. Now the sensor, let's see if I show you guys here. The sensor, this is the sensor. There's only one sensor in front. It's going to be on driver's side, and then there's one on the back on passenger side. You got to replace both of them when you're doing this job. If not, you're going to have sensor issues on the dash showing you wear pattern. So this one goes in there, and it has this little holder that holds it in place. You take that off, it's going to fall off. Now you got to follow. See, you got to follow the way that it was set up. It's going to have a hook here. You got to take it out of there. It's going to have another hook right here. You're going to take it out of there. Then it's going to come around and it's going to have another hook right here. Take it out of there. Now there's this little box here. That's where the sensor goes. It has 2 clips on this side. You're going to pull on the clicks out like that a little bit. Not too hard, just a little bit. Open the box and the sensor is just going to sit in there. And that's the clip. What I usually do is, if it doesn't come out when you push down on the lever, get a little screwdriver, stick it in there and pull it just enough so that you can pull the sensor. You don't want to break that clip. Other than that, that's as far as the sensor goes. The caliper, we gotta turn the wheel now so we can take the bracket off. And then we have the nut here, the Allen heads for holding the rotor. So let me get this off so later we can get this, and then we should be able to go. It's gonna have, I'm gonna show you right now the socket size for that. So let me turn the wheel to one side so we can get a little bit more space for the tools, and then we should be able to take it off. Alright, be right back. Alright guys, so basically we got the nut off. That's a 6 D6. So the caliper, the rotors are ready to come out. Now on the bracket for the studs here, that is a, I'll show you right now, that's a E18. Yeah, E18. Okay, so as an E18, you take that off, then you take this right here, and then that rotor is ready to come out, and we should be able to start putting the new ones back in. So usually you have to tap it with a hammer just a little bit so that we can get it off this rusty spot. And I'm going to take my grinder and kind of clean this off a little bit so that we can sit the new rotor in place properly. So yeah, and I'm going to show you guys the condition on this rotor once I take it off. Alright, be right back. Alright guys, so this is the back of that rotor. So you can see that gap is a lot bigger, and we still got on the inside, and we got marks on the center. So some rust came out. So basically that means that the pad was not biting anywhere here, and what it shows is that the rotor was in the same condition that is here all the way across. So meaning that it was sitting for a good while, and the rust does that to the rotors when they sit for a good while. And then when you put the pads on, or when you start using the car again, it works as a sandpaper, and it starts eating up the pads, and then you don't have good enough braking. It might start vibrating, so you can see that gap there. So yeah, so that's one rotor. So yeah, now let me clean this up a little bit, and we should be able to put the new rotor in, start assembling everything back again. Alright, let me get to it. Alright guys, so here we go. We got the rotor, we got the pads, we got the new hardware. We put some grease on the studs here on the guides so it doesn't get locked up. We got a new wire, new sensor hooked up. There we go. We tied the bracket, so always double check or triple check your work. That way you're not second guessing later if you did or did not. Then I wire the cable all the way around so you can see all the little brackets and everything. And then back to the box, we put it in place, and now we secure the box closed, shut, and that's it. So this wheel is done, and this is the front driver's side. So now we got to put the wheel back on and move on to the other side, or what I like to do is stay on one side and then move everything once only to the other side. That way we're not walking around the car. So yeah, let me put the wheel back on, clean up this space here, and move to the back. Alrighty. Alright guys, so just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna do the passenger front at the same time as I did the other one, and then I'm just gonna move to the back, just so you guys see the process on one side and the other one back to back, and not having to go back and forward, you know. So let me do this side, and then I'll start doing the back. So it's gonna be the same process. We got this bolt right here. We gotta take this caliper holder, the little cap here, you pull those off, take the Allen key. On this side there's no sensor. Okay, so we're not going to put a sensor on this side. So yeah, essentially I'll show you guys the trick. What I do is I stick it inside the rotor, and then I start pulling on it and start getting some movement. Then I push it back, get in between the pad itself. I don't know if you can pick that up, and then start pulling on it. Try to go a little bit deeper, that way you're not spinning or falling off and just hitting your head or something. So if you can see that gap, that means that the piston is already compressed all the way in and it's not going to go anymore. That way it's easier to replace. So now we're going to take this off. We're going to loosen those bolts, and we're going to take this little plate and the caliper is off. We're going to take the studs here in the back. We're going to remove that out of the way, and this stud here, so we can remove the caliper and we can replace it. So yeah, let me get to it and then I'll get right back. Alright guys, so we got the bolt, we cleaned out the edge here, we got everything back, we tied everything. So now we're ready to put the wheel back on and then move to the back end. Alright, let's get that done. Alright guys, so I got caught up with another customer on the call, but the rear pads and rotor, so we already have the rotor, obviously everything taken apart, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it once we put everything back together. But the thing that I wanted to show you guys, this side is the one that has the sensor for the back, and it's underneath this cover, okay, and it routes through here. It has this little cover that covers the cable right there. So you take that off and you route the cable around. It clicks here. I don't know if you can see my finger right there, and it comes around and it has this little box here that you kind of route it through. And then underneath this, that's where the same box as it has in the front is right there. You open it up and you see the plug right there. So that's where that goes. So essentially I had to loosen up here. It's a plastic 10mm at 8 over here and another 8 down here, and then this ones are just clip-ons. So you take that off, and that's for the sensor itself. And now I just gotta put everything back together. So I already cleaned up everything. I'm gonna put the rotor back right now, put the stud to hold it in place, and let me see what else we can do. Let me see. Yeah, after that I put the bracket on, that bracket right there, put the bracket, the pads, and start putting everything back together. So I'll show you guys once I have everything back together, the way that you're supposed to take it out and whatnot. Be right back. Alright guys, so we got the rotor, the pads, the bracket, the studs, the sensor, and everything put back together. So obviously you got this guy here, you got this bracket here. You move, you gotta take the studs out so you can press the caliper. The same trick that I always use on the caliper to remove it. The sensor, it clicks onto this little plastic thing that you take off, and then routes all the way up to here, comes back into that box. To remove this, you got this 10, this 8, this plastic, and this one over here, and the one down here, another 8. And then you're just gonna pry that open, and then you see the box in there when I showed you. And other than that, to put it all back together is the same way. Put the caliper, the bracket, the pads, the sensor, everything, so you can put everything back together. So this side's already done, so now I just got to do the other side, and we should be good to go. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, so now we're gonna do the passenger rear. Like always, this one, clean the bowl, take the pads over here. This side does not have a sensor, so all we gotta do is just change the pads and the rotor. Alright, so let me get to it. Alright guys, so here we are. Took the rotor out, and look, the same scenario that it was on the other side on the back. It's the same scenario here, and this side is a little bit worse. So it ate through the pad and it wasn't biting anymore into the rotor. So if you can see on the little section biting into the rotor, and the rest is just like a sandpaper all the way around. So this is why the car must have not been braking that great, because of this. So let me put the new rotor back on, clean this up right here. I already greased up my joints there, and put my bracket, put my pads and everything, and we're good to put everything back together. So yeah, let me get to it. Alright guys, so basically with the ball, the bracket, the pads, secure the bracket here in the back, the 2 bolts in the back, the ones over here holding the caliper, so everything is good to go. So now I just gotta put the wheel back on, take it for a spin, pick up all the mess, and the job is done. So let me put the wheel back on and be right back. Alright guys, so it's job all done. Need rotors and pads all the way around. And yeah, like always guys, it really does help me if you guys share, like, definitely YouTube. It all depends on the algorithm of the like, the interaction with the customers, or you know, by you guys clicking like on the video if it helped you, and if you subscribe, that really helped me out. And like always, share, like, subscribe, and I see you guys in the next one. And I'm really thankful for you guys subscribing and looking at the videos. I really do appreciate it. Alright guys, like always, keep it on the road, and see you in the next one.